What's up, Limit Breakers? Welcome to another episode of the Limitless Performance Podcast. Today, we're actually releasing probably one of my favorite episodes of all time because I truly believe one of the biggest, cheat codes to life that I've learned is pretty simple, and it's learning to love reading. And it's definitely a habit that I picked up that has drastically changed the direction and path of my life. And this episode's all about why reading is the biggest superpower in terms of a habit and skill you can acquire to make your dreams and what you want to accomplish in life much more attainable and realistic. And we dive into all those details in this episode. So I strongly encourage you, if you want to be great, just in general, if you want to acquire greatness, to test human potential and see how far you can go in life and to get to the end of life and know that there's nothing you regret, you've reached every potential you could possibly reach inside you, this is a perfect episode for that. So I encourage you, soak all this knowledge up that you're about to listen to, because it is the biggest change I've made in my life that's reaped the biggest rewards for myself and for those around me. So let's dive into it, Limit Breakers. Today we're going to talk about one of the biggest things that's helped me on this journey of learning more about the mind and how everything we experience is through our brain. And so it's up to us to figure out, how do we structure our thoughts, structure our internal dialogue to, of course, help us in the best possible way for performances in sports, but also in life. And a huge aspect to that growth for me personally was reading. And so I'm basically here today to tell parents, kids, anybody why reading is the biggest step skipper that you can possibly have. And when I mean step skipper, the reason that right now, like technology, for example, is growing at an exponential rate is because people are figuring out things faster because people before them figured out something faster than them. And so people are feeding off each other. Ideas are meeting ideas, collaborating, and continuing to make ideas better and better and better. And this is all happening from people coming to these realizations. And so now, why is reading the best form of learning? The biggest reason that reading is way more powerful than YouTube, TikTok, or even these little quick snippets that I post on my personal page and CTG Mindset is because the revision and the product that is brought about from the publication process and editors rereading it thousands of times, you're getting somebody's best work. And normally it's what someone's learned the most about in their life or whatever they're most passionate about. And so, for example, adults know that workers are much better if they're happy people. And that's why happiness is a huge part of our curriculum with Close the Gate, because everything gets better when you're happy. And so reading is, one, it's a subject that whoever the author is, they're passionate about. And it's their life's work that they're giving to you. So they're taking the time to spend years and years and years writing this book for you to read in probably 5 hours. A 200-page book would probably take you around 5 hours time for a normal reader. Okay, I don't know the exact math, but that's insane. So they're giving you the years it took them to learn this knowledge and, of course, portray it in the best possible way for you to read. And that's why reading is the ultimate step skipper. You have someone giving away 40 years of their life for you to read in 5 hours. That sounds like a pretty good deal to me. And when I realized kind of what goes into the publication process of a book, I realized how powerful this stuff actually is and why reading is so good for expanding the mind and growing the mind. Because we have to remember that there is a definite gap between the way things actually are in reality and the way we perceive them, right? So we have reality out in front of us, and our mind is the filter, right? Our mind's the one that filters that experience and basically interprets what's going on in reality. Okay, so we have two things: one, reality, and then two, the mind that interprets that reality. So it's very, very important that we do a great job of cultivating a healthy and wholesome mind that is interpreting this reality, right? So reality is the same for everyone. Reality by itself is the same everywhere you go. But since our senses are limited, we only have 5 senses. Okay, so this is a great example. Mantis shrimp have 16 cones in their eyes. Humans have 3 cones. So mantis shrimp can see billions of colors that we can't see, but they're there. We just can't see it, which is why we're very limited in terms of how we interpret and how we perceive. So what do we do with this limitation? We learn, we grow, we think outside the box, we expand the mind, we cultivate the way that we see the world. And we have to not hold too strongly onto our belief systems to do this. Okay, and I've said many times, Growth is how fast you admit error. And that's a huge piece to how we interpret and see reality. Um, and so to reiterate, remember that reality is the same for everyone out there. But we all are human, so there's 7.8 billion different interpretations of the world, because our mind is what interprets and perceives that real reality. Okay, and so why is this important? Because it goes back to reading. Reading does a great job of cultivating and expanding that mind, so we can get closer to that true perception of reality. Now, are we ever going to see it truly how it is? No, because we're human and we have limited senses. But we can get closer, okay? So it's kind of like the North Star. I like to say truth is the North Star. We can get closer to that by learning more, expanding our mind, cultivating the thoughts that we have. But we're never going to actually get there because we're still severely limited, and we can't see the world the way it is. But we can get closer to it, and that's the most important part. So just remember, gatekeepers, why it's so important to start reading. People are giving away their life's work, everything they've learned throughout their entire life, for you to learn in 5 hours. That is extremely powerful and extremely capable for you to take advantage of skipping steps, because that's really what people do when they write books. They're trying to help others not have the same mistakes that the person that wrote the book had. And so if you want to change your life, gatekeepers, start reading. Okay, because remember, nonfiction reading, okay, there's nothing wrong with fiction reading. It actually builds empathy, so there is something really, really good with fiction reading. But nonfiction reading is going to change the way you see the world. And that's really what we're trying to do with reading, is changing that mind, how we interpret and perceive, because that's going to cultivate a much better experience. Because remember, we don't experience anything without the mind. Nothing in your life that you care about is experienced without the mind. Just think about that. That's crazy. And for some reason, we all don't think that the most important thing is cultivating this healthy mind. There's nothing more important than it, because nothing doesn't involve this. Because everything you interpret about your life, about your experience, about your existence goes through here. Okay? So one of the first steps we can take in building a wholesome habit is reading. Skipping steps by reading, learning from others' mistakes, and learning from people's life's work that goes through hundreds of reads and publication processes. The reason this is way better than any YouTube, TikTok, or Reel video you have, those take like a minute to make. People aren't putting forth their best effort to make the most fine TikTok or YouTube video product. A book takes years and years to write. So that's how you know you're getting the most efficient information that you can in a book, compared to watching videos or documentaries, which are still great resources, but you're not maximizing that opportunity for learning like reading does for you. So I encourage all of you gatekeepers listening to this mental training episode, start setting a habit for reading. I was actually just having a conversation with my sister about this. She said she was struggling to get into reading. And it's just like meditation. People start way too big, and they think they're not accomplishing anything if they do something really small, like 5 minutes. It's about building slow momentum. If you can't read for 5 minutes a day, that's fine. Read for 3 minutes. If you can't do 3, read for 1 minute. If you can't do 1, read for 30 seconds. The act of doing it, that's what matters. Doesn't matter how long it is. That's not what matters. That's not how you build habits. And as you start to learn, as you start to read, you get addicted to it because you see how it changes your worldview. And so I encourage you, if you don't read on a consistent basis, make a habit to read 1 minute a day, okay? And once it hits that 1 minute, you can stop, or you could keep reading if you enjoy the subject. That's kind of how you build that habit, because then you're going to start pulling yourself to do it instead of forcing it upon yourself. And that's where true transformation, growth, and learning occurs, is when we pull ourselves to do it, and when we do it for the love of the action. Okay, you're not going to start loving the action because you're building a new habit. That's a struggle. Okay, but soon you'll start to do it because you love to do it. So always start with a really, really short period of time to build the habit of reading, gatekeepers, because then if the timer stops and you want to keep reading, that is gold, because you're pulling yourself to do it and you're doing it because you love to do it. That's beautiful. Okay, so I encourage all of you gatekeepers to start reading. It will change your life. It'll change the way you see the world, and it will help expand a mind that can get closer to seeing reality how it actually is. Because just remember, there's a huge gap between reality, the way things are, and how you perceive them. Okay, and the less mindful we are, the less we know about the mind, the bigger that gap is, and the more misinterpretations we can have of reality. And the reason this is not good is because there's so many instances when we're suffering or when we're struggling. For example, we're going down this endless mind loop about how someone doesn't like us or how we got in an argument today. Lots of the times we're not seeing reality as it is, and that's why we respond in poor ways or getting to arguments or getting into fights. And the closer we can get to seeing reality as it is, we're going to be much, much better people and handle situations like that a lot better. So you're going to just become a much better person in general, the closer you get to seeing things as they are. So just remember, gatekeepers, start really small with your reading habit. But if you do start reading, let me know your favorite books, kind of what you're reading. I can give recommendations. I'm going to try and do more of those on this page. But let us know you're reading. Let's start a movement, CTG book club. Hopefully we'll be able to offer that soon. But of course, make this collaborative, gatekeepers. I love to hear from you. Love to hear what you're thinking. We have a lot of people listening and a lot of reviews now. So just let me know kind of where you're at, and if you're enjoying this or anything else you want me to talk about or change or do better, just let me know. I'm here for constructive feedback. But let's keep changing our minds and let's keep changing the world. That's the plan right now, and just to breed happy people that want to help others. That's kind of where this is going, and I'm super, super excited for it. Peace out, gatekeepers.